Why don't you have a female co-founder? I said, मतलब मार्केट में नहीं मिलता है ना, like जाके खरीद के ले आऊँ. Posts were hysterical. यार ये कैसी आज़ादी दे रहे हो लड़कियों को, ये हमारे संस्कृति के अगेंस्ट है. यार ये गंदा टॉयलेट, साफ टॉयलेट की बात हो रही है. It's nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Toilet साफ कर दो, if Peabody stops selling, I'll be the happiest.
Yeah.
So no matter how much money do I have, no matter how much money my startups will make, it's one of the biggest regrets that I'm memory poor.
Hi everyone, I'm so excited for this very special episode of A Dash of Inspiration. It's not often that you actually get to talk to somebody, especially a man who's built not just a product but a movement for how women in this country live. And somebody who's built an organization that is purposeful yet super scalable. I'm joined by Deep Bajaj, the founder of Sirona, the man behind iconic products like the Peabody, but also someone who's changed the way women look at hygiene in this country. Thank you so much, Deep, for being part of this.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me over.
So, Deep, I remember I had the privilege of interacting with you, in the early years of Sirona. And I still remember the first meeting that we did. I think my team members were still shy about even saying out loud what you were doing, but you came in with so much passion and confidence.
Yeah.
I want to start there. How did this happen? How did you get into this?
So, two parts. How did I get into the category?
Yes.
And then maybe why am I so comfortable talking about it?
Yes.
So, I would say getting into the category was serendipity. I don't think I was ever, I had ever had planned that I will get into female hygiene as a category. But I think one thing led to another. And it was because of a road trip where the decision to get into the category was taken.
Yeah.
But I think the foundation of this was laid because of my personal and professional journey.
Yeah.
So, to bore you guys with it again, but I started with events and we used to do these concerts. It was very difficult to keep the toilets clean. So, I had seen that issue professionally.
Yeah.
Personally, and this is 2006 to 2010, I was into events.
Yeah.
11 to 14 was handmade carpets. My wife is a carpet designer.
Yeah.
She makes carpets for high-end residences and hotels. I can do better than those. And so during that time, we had suffered one miscarriage because of UTI.
Right.
So that's the personal end where how toilets can be a disaster came into my life. And my mother had arthritis in her knees. So there also, she had become a social recluse. She would not attend marriages or funerals alike because, she needs her seats to be a certain height to be able to use it. While we had got her knees replaced, still, she had those discomforts. So, and I was just on the periphery, looking at the problems and trying to find via media around it, right?
Yeah.
So if you're taking road trips, earlier you'd be like, like Rashi, my wife, would use toilet at home.
No, we plan our liquid intake depending on how long the journey is.
Correct. That's how life was for me also.
Yeah.
In events, the solution was let's have more toilets.
Yeah.
But hota kya, jo pehle toilets hain, that's where the queue lines up.
Yeah.
The first one, you just enter the first one. Even in the cinemas, if you see, the first toilet is what you enter anyway. So the solution was let's have more toilets. In personal life, the solution was let's find cleaner washrooms or use the washroom at home.
Yeah.
For my mother, the solution was, okay, let's restrict the travel,
Yeah.
So on this one particular road trip in 2013, fateful trip, we were 4 couples traveling together, Delhi-Jaipur highway. And like you very rightly said, boys were drinking whatever they could get their hands on, and girls were controlling their liquid intake, because if you'd had water also, it means you'd have to pee.
Yeah.
So forget beer and you forget everything else, because it's a 5-hour long journey.
Yeah.
Even back then, while there were some fancier eateries that had come up on the highway, but on a weekend the turnover is so high. The number of people who are using those washrooms is so high that it's difficult to keep them clean.
Absolutely.
So I was fooling around. I just said, God loved men more because he's made our bodies better. It's a convenience to be able to stand and pee.
Yeah, anywhere.
And for us, for Indian men, all
the
trees,
world is the toilet.
Boss, all trees are our urinal. So not that I'm proud of it, but it is a convenience nonetheless.
Yes.
So I said it in a joke, on the trip, कि यार अरे तुम लोग कुछ भी नहीं पी रहे हो यार, इसलिए हमारी bodies are so much better, because we can stand and pee anywhere. So a friend's wife suggested that she had seen someone in Europe use a contraption. She said India का problem है. She had used a contraption, कुछ makeshift solution के साथ she was standing and peeing. I think while everybody laughed it off, maybe for me, all these experiences must have dashed, and I didn't take that joke because there were hundreds of jokes that we must have cracked in that trip. while this one stayed. Because before this, in my realm of possibilities, for toilets, the only solution was saaf toilet dhoond lo. Find a clean toilet.
Find a clean toilet.
And here somebody changed it to say, oh, you know, women can also stand in pee. It was not even a solution, correct, before that. And by then we'd had our first daughter. So I thought, well, if it's a possibility, why are we not doing something about it?
Yeah.
And I mean, today I can say in hindsight, but I'm sure this must have happened. That days of events, imagining I remember categorically we were doing this concert in East Delhi. It was a Sunidhi Chauhan concert, and you know, we were launching this India's longest mall called Cross River Mall. It was back then the longest mall, 1 kilometer long mall. So the idea was, let's do kick-ass launches. So we had many stars planned who would come and perform, and it was all shopping links, shop and you get an invite. So we were anticipating X number of people would show up. The number doubled. So toilets, you know, became a nightmare to manage.
Yeah.
But I remember, you know, that night is so vivid in my you know, memory. So I'm sure all this must have crossed. Then pregnancy, then UTI, then my mother with her arthritis. I thought I would do something about it. So that's how P-Buddy
But you know, Deep, a lot of people, including myself, we have like these euphoria moments, but very few people actually take that moment and have the courage to actualize it, right? And in your journey, I remember, you know, in the early days of Sirona, there was still so much taboo. Firstly, oh my God, why is a man talking about it? Why are we even discussing it? Women peeing, why is it even important? So how did you handle all of that, right? You know, you were already doing something great. But to give that up, to build something new and to solve for something this complicated and taboo, how did that happen?
Yeah, I don't think I looked at it from a man trying to solve for a woman point of view. You know, I initially started with events. So पहले events बेच रहा था. Then I got into handmade carpets. तो carpets बेच रहा था. Nobody looked at my gender, right? At that time. But can you really organize a concert? I mean, if you said that you could, you could. Correct. Nobody looked at my gender when I was trying to sell carpets. So here also I was just, you know, I was somebody who was trying to offer a solution. I was just a sales guy with a product. You know. So and what I realized was that here, because the topic is so taboo, the only way to talk, the only way to streamline it is by talking about it. So that was the only way. And you know, and I've this was by then the third or fourth business I was trying my hands at. So some things had become very, very clear. Like, I think the writing on the wall is, yaar, kuch to log kahenge, right? So it was clear that, yaar, at the end of the day, if my consumers don't like it, then there is something fundamentally wrong. And each and every girl I spoke to, even right now, you know, if we talk to women in our lives, they'll tell you, toilets are still not clean.
Of course.
Problem is so big. For period pain, the solutions are still the same. Hot water bottle, Meftol. So when we came up with India's first herbal period pain relief patch in Serona, nobody said it's a man trying to solve. Everybody said, oh yeah, it's a problem. So I think maybe that is the reason that whenever we presented the problem, it more came from consumer insights only कि यार लड़कियां ये problem face कर रही हैं. And we have this solution. So, and the solution was so unique that nobody looked at the face behind it, even if it was a bald, you know, shakal looking guy, but it was more around saying solution. So I think in my, the short answer to that will be, for me, it's not a gender thing. I never saw it as a taboo. I saw taboo as a problem. And I thought the only way I can break it is by talking about it.
Absolutely, you know, and I am one of the millions of women who absolutely love your products. And again, you know, I have this amazing advantage of remembering some of the early days where I remember we were getting some media person to talk to you, and it was a woman, and I remember she called saying, but he's a guy, मैं कैसे बात करूँगी? How will I talk to him about period pain? And I said exactly what you said. I said, he's a founder of a product. Right? And if he's comfortable, why are you? Have you faced that, you know, women in fact have been more prejudiced and scared to actually discuss the problem?
No, I have faced the opposite, on the contrary. You know, I've had, you know, once I remember BBC did a story on us in English and in Hindi. So the English story, you know, got us a lot of praises, you know, on Facebook, etc. Wow, good. The Hindi was also published, and I'm a Delhi boy, you know, Delhi Punjabi Delhi boy, so मुझे सारी गालियाँ आती हैं. I would say majority आती हैं, you know, unless आपको UP की कुछ नहीं आती होंगी, but majority not Delhi वाली तो आती हैं, yes, Delhi वाली आती हैं. And that post, of course, it also went viral because it was about, you know, लड़कियां भी खड़े होके शौच कर पाएंगी, something like that. It said, you know, posts were hysterical. कि यार ये कैसी आज़ादी दे रहे हो लड़कियों को, ये हमारे संस्कृति के अगेंस्ट है. यार ये गंदा टॉयलेट, साफ टॉयलेट की बात हो रही है. It's nothing.
Exactly.
टॉयलेट साफ कर दो. If P-Buddy stops selling, I'll be the happiest. Like I've said it so many times कि आप इंडिया के सारे टॉयलेट साफ कर दो. मेरी माँ, मेरी बेटियों को, मेरी बीवी को साफ टॉयलेट्स मिल जाए, बहुत अच्छा बंद हो जाए सेल, मुझे दिक्कत नहीं है. Because then I will sell it to pregnant ladies and those with arthritis. Then it becomes a medical need.
Yeah.
कि soft toilet के अंदर भी उठने बैठने की problem है.
Right.
So I said a lot, and I think the criticism or cynicism that I faced has come more from men, and I won't say from women. In fact, from women even have walked up to me and given me new product ideas. Like I'll give you an example. So Sirona का पूरी journey है puberty से लेकर menopause तक कुछ लड़कियां problem face करती हैं, and we'll try to solve them with our unique products.
Yeah.
And that's the reason, when you look at when they start traveling, toilets become a problem, dirty toilets when she becomes sexually active, when she gets married in whichever order, whatever it is. She's facing some of these problems which need a solution. So because we had started coming up with newer solutions.
Right.
Toilet, saaf mat karo, stand in pee.
Yeah.
Period pain mein hot water bottle, and don't take painkillers. Take take our herbal period pain relief patch, so you can sleep better. You can even use it at office.
Yeah.
If you get rashes because of pads, don't use regular, whatever you're using, because there was no top of the mind product. Baby diaper rash cream के लिए products थे.
Yeah.
Women के लिए अगर pad से rashes होते हैं या inner thigh chafing हो जाए तो उसके लिए कोई product नहीं था.
Yeah.
So we came up with the product, and so looking at this trend, I remember we had launched tampons back then with applicator.
Yeah.
And we had also launched our black pads as a mark of revolt to pads. So a lady walked up in 2016. 15, 16-ish, and she told me, why don't you introduce cups also? Now, cups is not our innovation, but I would say the way we were able to scale cups to all millions of women using cups in India, credit to that one customer insight. So, women have been far more open and forthcoming. Yeah. Maybe in the first discussion, they're a little hesitant. Skeptical. When it's I would say, a structured conversation, तब थोड़े issue होते हैं. But otherwise, as a consumer, always, I think they've been very, very good to me, at least so far.
Absolutely, because I think it's one of those brands that has actually respected the woman as a customer, right? And I think one of the most beautiful things about it, and I'm not talking as a media PR person, is a lot of brands who solve for women, they become very gyan oriented. Ki ye karo. I don't think Serona ever did this. It's like, hey, you have a problem, we have a great product. Correct. In fact, I don't know if you remember this anecdote. One of the most successful products, I believe, is actually the pad disposal packets that you all have, right? Correct. And to solve such a simple problem, which women face, which is, oh my God, how do you dispose of the pad? And, you have to wrap it, but you live in a joint family. And I remember reading a post somebody written saying that when I first got married, I took like packets and packets of Serona into my sasural because I knew that I couldn't dispose it the way I did. Such a simple problem. And that post, I don't know if you remember, had thousands of people saying, oh my God, me too, me too. It had such amazing significance in the community. Sure. So, I mean, it's been a really interesting way that, how this brand, like I mentioned earlier, I don't think it's a brand, it's more like a movement. When you first started and you already saw all of this success, how did life change for you?
I don't think it changed at all.
Yeah.
When you're in the process, you don't see it. Maybe now that, I've exited, there is time to reflect upon the highs and the lows. Us waqt to it was more about churn. Every day there were newer problems to handle and newer problems to solve. I think this is how I looked at it. But yes, I think बहुत simple है यार. I think if you step back and see what problems are they facing, you ask 10 girls today, you will get 100 problems that are yet to be solved. Yeah. Like this disposal. Similar, we kept arguing here, periods is just not about flow. Yeah. 1000 problem hai uske around. There are pre, there are post, there are during issues that are yet to be solved. Yeah. Despite us having, such an old civilization, there is still a problem around it. But period se pehle pain hota hai. Solution वही दो हैं. Painkiller and rash cream maybe, During, of course, you have to keep the intimate area clean. Post, you have to throw the pads. And then the list is very long. Yeah. आज बनाओगे तो आज भी हजारों products की ज़रूरत है. I think all we did is, we said we had nobody else. We did. I think the advantage in our case was that there was nobody who was from the industry. Women thinking about कि यार इन products को better कर दो. We thought more as, as guys who were there to just fulfill whatever wish you had. So we never looked at the TAM. Yeah. We never looked at how big this category will be. So एक customer ने आके बोला menstrual cup launch करो, we launched it. Yeah. And like that, hundreds of other solutions.
Which is so unorthodox, right? Because now most D2C founders, they'll do a market survey, they'll calculate the TAM, they'll do all of that. But you all didn't do any of that. Yeah. But I'm also sure that, while we are all celebrating our success and scale, I'm sure there must have been a lot of significant challenges in you building this business. Talk to us about some of those challenges and how you overcame them.
Very difficult. Try to look at more positives than negatives. But Challenges, सबके same challenges है यार. I mean, there were funding challenges. You know, people thought we had 2 brands, we had 3 brands by then. And today house of brand is a thing. Back then it was अरे एक brand कर लो. बहुत छोटी category है. How big is a toilet hygiene category? Periods के अंदर people are only using pads and we didn't have pads. We were looking at alternates, you know, tampons, menstrual cups, period panties, reusable pads. We were trying to drive adoption on those. Sexual wellness also was a very, very small category, or intimate wellness was a very small category. So similar challenges that I think founders today also face. I think the name of the game is persistence. And I think that is the only thing that we did. We thought, you know, let's just get on the journey. Our answers will keep unfolding. Like they've unfolded in all my other businesses. Like in events, I didn't know ever that I'll be able to scale it to whatever 8-10 crores we were doing in 2010. We started with 0. Carpets also, we had no idea कि यार कहाँ से we'll find the consumers, पर आ गए. इसमें भी same है यार. And it's for anything new that you're trying to do, whether you're trying to do something me too or you're trying to do something for the first time, you will have your own unique journey. And I think that realization was there by the time this business started. So I thought, let me just hang in there, कुछ ना कुछ तो हो जाए.
So people who look at you, by the way, from the outside, it almost looks like some, you know, MBA business plan where it was super thought through, because in the hindsight, that's what it looks like.
Correct.
Right? But you obviously didn't do it like that. I think you just kept building. So, you know, what are maybe 1 or 2 things that really you believe was the pinnacle of success for you as a brand?
I don't still think that we've been a success, but I can share some of the practices that I believe, you know, you should keep in mind, or whenever I'm starting again, I will look at these as non-negotiable. So I think some of the things that I believe is, you know, 4 things for any startup. For me, first will be, it takes time. So give yourself good 1,000 days.
1,000 days.
And I think uska reason hai, you know, like, of course, you've also had such an illustrious journey, and we were just discussing the fact that it's been 8-9 years. And in itself is a achievement. Correct? And it's because, you know, first year goes in euphoria. Everybody congratulating. Wow, business start kiya. Very good, you know. Second year आते आते अक्कल आती है कि यार पहले साल क्या गलतियां करी हैं. And उन गलतियों को आप तीसरे साल तक फिक्स कर पाते हो. अब आप अगर फास्ट हो, so maybe you can do it faster. For me, it's about saying, yeah, it takes 1,000 days to crack the code really well. That's number 1. I think number 2 is very, very important, which maybe worked in our favor, was it is almost your first responsibility to keep yourself positive during this journey. And you need to have your personal hacks, whatever works for you, to ensure that you don't fall in the loop, because all you do is the negative loop ko todna bahut zaruri hai. You'll be taking calls, some of the decisions will be going right, some of the decisions will be going wrong, and so you need to find your own rituals, you need to find your own hacks to say, yaar ab main kuch shuru kar raha hu ya shuru kar rahi hu, I need to ensure that I somehow code my brain, train my brain to look at the positives. So in my case, for instance, I would tell team to write, because I still write. I would have one good thing of the day that I write every day, and I've been writing it for 5 years.
Wow. So something so simple yet so powerful.
You end your day on that note, na? रोज कुछ अच्छा जरूर होता है. ऐसा हो ही नहीं सकता.
Even on your worst days.
Even on your worst day. First of all, there's nothing called worst days, yaar. You know. So what I do is, at least, so that is something that I'll tell my team. Whether they do it or not is their problem, but I would request them to always end their day with good thing of the day. So I'm just talking about personal rituals, some of the hacks that I used. You know? And then, of course, during the course, I stumbled upon this concept that I almost talk about very frequently, which is about energy vampires. You know, it's very important during these years and even otherwise in life to keep energy vampires at bay. And what are energy vampires? You know, this is a concept by, at least I heard it from Dandapani, who's a monk based out of New York.
Right.
And he says, you know, जैसा पैसा होता है ना, वैसे energy है. पैसा खत्म हो जाए तो लगता है ना, अरे वाह, everything is over. And energy, of course, is like when there's no energy, you're just done, right? When energy is over, our quota is over, we die. But in every day, if you see, there are places where you enter and you instantly feel energized. There are places where you enter and maybe everything is perfect, but you feel nahi ho raha. And similar thing happens even with people. You know, there's some people you meet and you're instantly lit up. You know, it's like fantastic. And then there's some people who just suck the daylights out of you. Right? So these are energy vampires. And in our culture, you know, because there is no celebrations of failures, because we don't say no, because there is courtesy, there is sanskar, there is the list is long. We don't talk our heart out. So we sugarcoat things, or we don't take feedback, etc. So if there is somebody who said something to us and we didn't like it, we'll just keep it to ourselves. But what we don't realize is how it really screws up with our being. So the concept of energy vampires encourages you to look at everybody you meet in these two windows.
That's amazing.
No matter how important the person is for you, if you do not feel great after meeting him or her, put them on that list and don't deal with them. So that's second hack, at least that I used. So 1,000 days, keeping yourself positive, find your own hacks. Third hack for me is the day when I think things are not going according to me, I leave that task. I'd go spend time with the girls, or I will go back to my good thing of the day for the last so many years to know, yaar, aaj ka din sahi nahi ja raha hai. But ye dekh yaar, I mean, every day you're making progress, yeah, what the heck?
Yeah.
Still, if you're not able to, just go back to your family and spend time.
Yeah.
Second is keeping yourself positive. And of course, then the third is that, I mean, the journey is going to be tricky during these first few years. So it's important that you don't really have unrealistic expectations. पैसा धीरे धीरे आएगा.
पैसा धीरे धीरे आता है.
So वो 2-3 चीजें. And then उन्हीं के around rituals बने. तो Sirona की journey में I think the fact that I had these realizations and basis that I made a few rituals, I think we just got lucky.
No, I think there was also a lot of hard work that went into it.
I've
seen it. I've seen it. But this is so powerful, and I think you touched upon something that not a lot of people do. So, we're founders, and I can say this very candidly to you that I think we're also kept to a certain standard, right?
Yeah.
And, very recently, I also realized that I think founders also have to express themselves as human, right?
Correct.
We also go through losses. We have bad days.
Yes.
We have good days. And that doesn't mean that you're a bad leader and you're abandoning the ship. It just means that you're basically dealing with the fact that you're human. So I think it's so refreshing to see you, somebody who's, really scaled, say that this happens and this is...
No, there's no scale, I think, but I think it's calling a spade a spade. I would say ambitious professional, like working executive.
Yeah.
It'll be similar sort of challenges you'll face. And if you're a founder, even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have more bad days than good days, but that's why it's important to keep some rituals going around, keeping yourself positive.
Absolutely. And I often ask most, at least D2C founders this, D2C anyways is a very chaotic, competitive space. And for you to have built such an, honestly, I keep saying, I don't think it's a brand, it's a movement, built such an iconic brand in such a short period of time. How did you do that from a business point of view, right? Because I know so many people who are probably watching this are building small businesses, they're scared saying, nahi, ye to nahi kar sakte. There's, multi-million-dollar company that exists in it, main nahi karunga, everyone's dissuading them. How did you sort of overcome that challenge and, build something this great out of it?
I don't think I saw it like that. I think, but what I can say for sure is that, whatever you want done will happen as long as, you keep at it. That's the long and short of it. And we've also, and then there are simple things to make it happen. During the course, day one, you will not see what will happen 3 years later.
Yeah.
You can only plan. But it's important to take the first step. I think most of us do not take the first step. I mean, if you look at my background, there is no way in hell anybody would have predicted for me to have covered the distance that I've covered. I'm not saying it's big or small, but from my vantage,
absolutely,
I've covered some distance, which somebody from my background, people, agar main aapko apna background likh ke dun, what are the chances of this guy succeeding in life? You'd be like, well, you would not give me a very long rope. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. I think the journey is about let's start and we'll figure out the answers. Nobody has it all figured out, no matter how smart they say they are or how smart do they come across. Everybody is living and dying every day. Every founder.
Really?
रोज फटती है, रोज सोते हैं, रोज रोते हैं.
I thought I was the only one.
All of us, yeah. Nobody. I think this whole trying to fake confidence is such a disease of this country.
Really.
Which is. Anyways, I hope someday it goes away. But so the first step taking is very important. Then some basic rituals. Like I said, you have to keep yourself positive. And some fundamental things. Like in our case, I think in a way I almost institutionalized keeping in touch as a structure.
Yeah.
So I believe there are 4 stakeholders that you have. There are 4 customers that you have as a founder. You have your paying customers. You have your team members, who's your internal customers. You have your investors if you have, who are your third customers. And of course, 4th is your media / well-wishers.
Yeah.
So we have these 4 customers. Now, if you can just keep in touch with them, whenever the time is good or bad, you will see incredible doors open for you.
Yeah.
I believe this podcast is also because somehow, we managed to keep in touch. And I keep spamming you with my
Not spam, and like I was
updates.
mentioning earlier, you won't believe, like I was saying, when the news of your exit happened, everyone was like, oh my God, incredible story. How did he do it? Overnight sensation. And I remember it was me and I think one or two other people who also happened to be on your broadcast list. We're like, guys, it's not an overnight thing, Every time you send, it's not that we read every message, but just that feeling of, oh my God, every time you launched a new product, every time something happened, you send us like this really sweet, small message, which seemed so personal. And we were like, wow. And so I think so many of us were just rooting for you. So I think that's actually really important because you just feel connected, and every time then you go on like a Blinkit and you're buying a Sirona product, you're like, I know this is from Deep's company. It's, I'm part of this journey in a little way. It's such a beautiful yet simple thing. So I think a lot of what you do and what you've sort of broken down is very small, simple things. It's not about these big, gigantic moves, right?
Correct. So simply, I think, and we don't need to complicate it.
Yeah.
We are crores of us in the country. आपको आपका customer मिल जाएगा.
Yeah.
All you need to do is keep at it.
Yeah.
Stay positive. Give it time. You do that, you're fine. And then have rituals which are very simple. Like in my case, this keeping in touch, institutionalizing thing, if I could just say some. So when it comes to customers, we were like, no matter where we're getting feedback from, take it for NPDs. So, how menstrual cups came into being.
Yeah.
We got fashion tapes or ideas from there. We got pepper spray idea from our consumers when we acquired this brand.
Yeah.
So keeping in touch with consumers was also institutionalized. We also had a motto to say that, how do you say that you can really wow the experience for them so that they keep coming back to you? So within the group, it was very clear that most of the brands would say that if you get a complaint, investigate and solve. I would say the reverse. You solve and then investigate. So if a Upasna reaches out and says, hey, I've got broken product, do not, or I have not got my order, we would not be like, okay, well, let us come back to you. We'll say, okay, give us your address, we'll refund and we'll send you a new product or whatever you're fine with, and then we'll figure out.
Yeah.
There were times when some customers did take us for a ride. It did happen. But I think it's all right, yeah. But in the process, though, 10 में से, let's say 4 or 5 customers took you for a ride.
Yeah.
The 3 or 4 who were legit genuine, they became our ardent brand ambassadors.
Absolutely.
So keeping in touch, institutionalizing it at the customer level.
Yeah.
Second, team level. Founders are expected to have all the answers. I don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
Nobody has all the answers. So we would have this, keeping in touch for the second leg, let's say for internal customer team members. We would have our monthly town halls openly. All hands, everybody, where we are discussing. And this happened when we were 10, 12 people to when we were 180.
Wow.
So I mean, warehouse ke andar I would do different review and apne corporate office mein I would do different review. Where the idea is, yaar, ye situation hai boss. So my philosophy was, these are good things that happened last month with me. There are things where I'm struggling with and this is where I need help. And everybody would present similar stuff. So what that did, that got everybody together saying, it's not only Deep's problem to solve, it's not only Mohit's problem to solve, it's all of us.
Yeah.
And it also gave everybody that sense of ownership. So there was time when I would say that when we were 40, we had 40 co-founders.
Wow.
Everybody was equally empowered. It also resulted in very, very low attrition, which eventually became the strength.
Yeah.
So that culture of, that ritual of being open and keeping in touch with team members.
Yeah.
So simple, but it helped. Similarly for investors. So most of us go back to our investors when things go bad, we don't really tell them.
Yeah.
And when things are going fine, we still send updates. In our case, it was good or bad, we just kept sending regular updates.
Yeah.
So when things went really bad, there were investors who came to our rescue. Like before COVID, I remember I had to once take loan against our house to keep the cash flows going because we had not raised a lot of money in the journey. Not raised a lot of money, we never got a lot of money. So that became a blessing in disguise. And we wanted some top up. So because we had kept in touch with our third stakeholder, which is our angel investors, / investors, one of them reached out. Ki, haan yaar, ye log touch mein rakhte hain. Good time also they have updated, challenges also they have updated. Now they're facing a challenge, I'll help.
Right.
As opposed to मैं एक random email लिख देता 3 साल बाद यार कि सब ठीक चल रहा है, but COVID आ गया और हमारे पास पैसे नहीं है. People wouldn't give. Fourth stakeholders would be, let's say, the media or the other well-wishers.
Yeah.
So many times I have gotten opportunities because whenever I meet somebody, I put them on this, sorry, but shameless spamming list on which you also made it proudly.
Proudly made it.
And it keeps opening doors. So बहुत simple है business. I think कोई इतना complicated भी नहीं है.
Yeah. And one of the things that I want to bring up is you have this very elusive thing called brand love. People like me, we spend years trying to build that for a company because brand love cannot be bought, right? Where you love a brand, doesn't matter if the product or the service is good or bad, you'll just cheer for the brand.
Correct.
You've really made that happen, and I'm not talking as, you know, your ex-PR person, but I'm talking as a customer. I truly love the brand. When I see a Sirona, I feel proud. How did you do that? How did you build this brand love?
I have not done anything in it, to be very honest. I think I've been very lucky to have great customers and great team members. And of course, then anybody who we got in touch with, I think we just very authentically kept sharing wherever we were at.
Yeah.
And I think that somewhere has made this into a secret sauce, but it did work in our favor initially because we had not raised a lot of money.
Yeah.
We would just, like I said, just keep in touch with our consumers. We would tell them whatever information they were searching for in form of videos, and whenever, even if we didn't have the product, we would make the information available. And I think we just did some of those basics here, and rest I think I've been just plain simple lucky, which anybody who puts in effort is, you know, right place, right time, right team, right customers. So I personally have had a very little role to play in this.
I think you're underplaying that.
No, I'm being brutally honest.
But I know this brand love, and you know, like we said, very few companies are able to show purpose and scale, right? You know, there are lots of great people who do great work but are not able to monetize it, and vice versa. You've actually done both. But I also know that I don't think you ever built the company. I've never ever heard you say, "Hamara ye financial target hai." I have never heard you say that. Yet you've had one of the most successful exits in the startup ecosystem in the last few years. How did that happen? How do you approach success, exit, you know, financial growth?
Yeah, I think you know, the targets are a factor of whatever I think you believe you can achieve. You should always think big, and then map it to what my strengths are, and let that be the target, and not something कि यार competition क्या कर रहा है, या what are the other people saying. And I think we somehow never ever took the eyes off that target. That yeah, I am good at this. I'm only going to do this, and I'm going to double down on this. I'm good at my small team. Yes, we don't have rankers. We might not have people who are pedigreed background, but we don't need it. These guys are good, doing a great job. Competition could be doing anything. Industry analysts could be saying anything. Like in my case, initially I got so much of suggestions. Why don't you have a female co-founder? I said, मतलब market में नहीं मिलता है ना. It's like जाके खरीद के ले आऊँ. I need to find somebody who identifies with the category, who is ready to give me the same amount of time. I have a co-founder who also is a male, but well, I have. So I think it's around saying, playing to your strengths and doubling down on what you know best is the only formula.
Yeah.
And that's why I never took very ambitious targets. While we always took high targets, but we took targets in line with what my team can achieve.
Yeah.
You know, industry is rate पे grow कर रहा है, that doesn't work for me. Because, you know, in many ways, I've created the industry. We've created this category.
Absolutely.
You know, we were the first ones, and then many people started, you know, launching similar products. But in our case, it was about this team. This is the money that we need to raise. With this money, I know we can achieve this number. So it was always about A to B, B to C, C to D.
Right.
That's where it is. You could be growing at 100%, 500 care. I don't care.
Yeah.
I, with my team, with my strengths, can reach from here to here.
Yeah.
For this, if this is the gap, I'll only raise that much.
Which is so refreshing, because I think most founders that are starting out, they're so inundated by, you know, this is happening in this market, your competition is doing this. There's a lot of pressure also from the ecosystem to catch up.
Correct.
But I don't think you all ever cared about catching up. You were just doing your own thing. But I'm sure there were a lot of people and forces that were pulling you guys in different directions. In the middle of all of that, how did you manage to stand your ground?
Yeah, it's important to sleep well at night, you know, and as far as that is where the decision comes out of you. So, of course, you know, you need to watch out for your team. You should not be taking really under-ambitious targets either. But you need to watch out for your team. So you don't take such big targets that, you know, everything breaks and things go, you know, awry. And in our case, maybe because I had done these couple of businesses, you know, I had one, you know, startup which didn't do that well. There were learnings to say, यार ये वापस नहीं होना चाहिए. You should always have this much of runway.
Yeah.
And I'll take bets, which some of the bets are ambitious, some of the bets are to keep the show running. And I think everything worked around that. Why did we never get into catching a business? Because I don't think I'm built like that. In fact, there's so many startups where I have taken, you know, some exposure today as an angel investor. I tell them the same thing यार कि देखो इतना बड़ा category है उसका ये share हम ले सकते हैं. Let's think what share are you most comfortable with?
Yeah.
And let's find then ways to achieve it.
Yeah.
You know, so am I not ambitious? I'm very ambitious.
Yeah.
But I'm also a realist.
Which is
many
a
ways.
very, very interesting and a hard balance to crack. And, you know, like now, looking at your journey ahead, right? Like I said, you've had one of the most successful exits.
You just make it sound better. It's not like that.
It is.
Go ahead. Yeah.
No, it's you know, it's a brilliant case study.
Yeah.
What are you planning to do next? What is now making you stay up at night and say, "Ye next ye karna hai"?
Well, I think there are these 40, 45 startups where I have a small portfolio, and some of them are very interesting founders. All of them are interesting founders, but some of them I have access to on a regular basis. So as of now, the goalpost is to ensure that whatever mistakes I've done, can I ensure that they don't make the mistakes?
Yeah.
And can I be somebody that they can, you know, like the 4 a.m. friend, just in case, you know, if they're going through something.
Yeah.
I should be an unbiased investor.
Yeah.
More a friend, a shadow co-founder, where I meet them once a week. I look at the challenges that they're facing, whether it's in the funding or it's in team or it's in operations or it's products, and I just go back and try to solve it for them during that week. So this is what is happening as of today.
Yeah.
Till I find the next
challenge to
solve.
And you've had such a, you know, long, interesting journey. But you know, as a founder, you know, from each cycle, you know, what has been, I think, your biggest myth that got busted? Saying, "Yaar, funding mein aisa hota hai." What are like the 2-3 big myths that you saw busted for yourself?
I think myths that got busted. I don't know. I think more than myths that got busted, it is more around saying some things have evolved. Ki, yaar, this is which I need to do, you know, to keep my head above water. You need to have that work-life balance, no matter what people say. You know, at different stage of your life, different things are important. There is a time for you to put in the hours, and then there is time where, you know, you need to be able to ensure. Like for me, the biggest regret is that my elder daughter is not 12, and there's so many years that I have. It's a blur for me.
Yeah.
So no matter how much money do I have, no matter how much money my startups will make, it's one of the biggest regrets that you know, I'm memory poor.
You're memory poor.
Whatever, if that's a word. So I would say the myth is कि यार पैसे से सारी प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व हो जाएंगी, नहीं होंगी. पैसा आ जाएगा तो फिर कोई और प्रॉब्लम आ जाएगी. प्रॉब्लम्स आती रहेंगी. ये रियलिटी है. Correct? That's where startup life or even professional life, if you're trying to do something outside your sphere, be ready to have, you know, resistance. वो आएगी. So वो एक है कि पैसे से प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व होगा, नहीं होगा, कोई और प्रॉब्लम आएगी. Second, I think it's important to have that work-life balance. In what ratio? Keep moving it in line with how you're moving, but move it. Let it not be a 18 hours or a 12 hours or a 10 hours. Balance it. It's important. I don't think it can be ever a 50-50 balance, but there can always be in harmony.
Yeah.
वो harmony को maintain करना बहुत ज़रूरी है. And then some of these, like I said, some of these things you would evolve. Keep at, you know, keeping yourself positive. Figure out what keeps you positive. Very, very important. And then if you're breaking, seek help.
Yeah.
You know, everybody is fighting a similar or a tougher battle. So all of us have similar or same complexes. Some are able to fake it better, and some don't. So I think one of the other things is that if you ask for help, you'll be seen as lesser off. If you're breaking, correct, no, please do. And another is also, as a founder, I would say you're supposed to have all the answers. No, you can never have all the answers. Have a great team who can find answers for you. So have that culture where you are able to help them rise with you. So yeah, some of those. A lot of gyan, no?
No, not a lot of gyan. Actually, a lot of it is really practical, right? And I think, you know, it's very refreshing because, you know, the last 8 years I've seen it. For the first time, I think thanks to folks like you, we're able to have these conversations in the open, right?
Correct.
And because before this, you're not allowed to say that, hey, we are having a bad day. You're not allowed to say that you're being vulnerable. So, you know, when we see people like you having these conversations, I think it's, you know, super energizing. You know, and as we sort of, you know, get into the end of the conversation, I have some, you know, 2-3 quick things that I want to ask. One is, you started the company when the consumer behavior was very different, you know, and you've seen India has just dramatically changed just in the last 3 to 4 years.
Correct.
And the product and the brand you've built is still very relevant today. So what is, I think, the biggest shift that you've seen, and more importantly, what's this big shift in consumers that you see is going to come in?
I don't know shift. I think the industry is evolving in the way that, you know, the buying behavior has evolved.
Yeah.
You know, and I think the only mantra that I, for at least the D2C brands where I have an exposure to, is just be wherever your consumer is. Don't be married to the concept of playbooks. You know, 3 years ago, nobody would have thought how quick commerce will disrupt the category. 10 years ago, nobody would have thought how marketplaces, which is Amazon, Flipkarts, etc. of the world, would disrupt the market. So the guys who moved with the tide are the ones who you know, were able to become brands. So I think move with the consumer is the only. I think we've just moved with the consumers. I think that's the shift that we've seen. There were consumers who were earlier consuming content somewhere else.
Yeah.
They were buying from somewhere else. Then there came the entire telecom and logistics, the warehousing, you know, transformation in India happened. With that, consumers started consuming more content on digital, so we moved to digital.
Yeah.
They started ordering stuff online, we moved to online. Today they are on quick commerce. You should be on quick commerce if you're a D2C brand.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a shift. Other than that, it's the same. Yeah, they have problems, they need solutions.
Yeah.
Fundamentals are the same.
Absolutely. And secondly, you know, you, of course, you know, have spoken a lot about work-life balance. You've got, you know, a lovely family. You've got daughters. What do you want them to know? What is the piece of advice that you would give to the young generation, especially women, you know, that are possibly watching?
Nothing. They're awesome. They can do anything in life. just be at it. That's where it is. And that's about it. Nothing else. You're awesome the way you are. Let nobody tell you different.
Let nobody tell you differently.
Correct.
That's amazing. And my last question is, what is it that you would like to tell your younger self, the person who was starting out at the beginning of the Serona journey?
Well, this too shall pass. So, no matter
and pass
what it
so
is.
well.
Yeah, and I think what would I tell my younger self here? I think it'll all fall in place eventually. I think it all falls in place. Whatever are the today's challenges in 5 years later, you know, you'd be laughing them off. So whether good or bad, this too shall pass, I think, has been the biggest thing that I would have told the 20-year-old Deep, maybe.
Thank you so much, Deep. This has been one of the most beautiful and refreshing conversations. So energized to see what you're doing and very energized to see what you'll do next. Thank you so
kind.
much.
No, thank you for having me. Thanks a ton. And congratulations on your journey.
Thank you.